And we're here to talk about cooperation today. For introductions, I was saying that my daughter is 21 and a half. The half is still important at this age. And back when she was born, in 1997, there was no Facebook and there wasn't really a lot of information about alternate ways to parent, at least I hadn't seen any. And very similar to the stories that I'm hearing from you all, that I wanted to parent differently than I was parented. And when I was parented, I was punished a lot, I was hit a lot, I was beaten a lot. I spent most of my life, my childhood, in fear. And it was always fear of when's the next time I'm going to be punished, when's the next time I'm going to be hit, and my thought process was all about how can I avoid that, how can I protect myself from that. And so I grew up feeling like experiencing it was always about protection, and it was always about fighting or, intelligently acquiescing. When am I going to acquiesce to keep myself safe? When do I need to rebel to keep myself safe? But it was never about tuning into what was real for me, what was right for me, what made sense to me, what my heart really wants in life. And I really wanted to do things differently, but I didn't know what that really meant. I knew I didn't want to spank, and I didn't want to punish, and I didn't want to yell. But how to do that, I didn't know. And getting it, so when my daughter came, all of a sudden there she was, and my wife and I had this goal. We still all, at the same time, had all our pain and all our triggers and all our trauma from our own past that caused all these reactions. And so then we had to figure out, why are we yelling, and why is all this stuff happening, and how can we work through it? So it was really a long, painful process. My daughter calls herself our guinea pig, because we didn't know what we were doing, and we were just trying to figure it out. So then, flash forward a decade. I think it was a decade before I even heard anyone else was doing things like this, In the early days, people were always criticizing us. Your daughter is going to turn out to be entitled and selfish and rude, and she'll never learn how to follow rules, because we had no rules, and she'll never learn how to take it if someone says no to her, because we rarely ever said no to her. And so there are all these things that we were always getting criticized. I lost family, I lost friends, it was really intense. And we made lots and lots and lots of mistakes all throughout the years. I call myself a mistake-making machine. Because at least knowing that, I was able to recognize that every time I made a mistake, it was an opportunity for me to learn from it. And if I actually take that mindset for myself, then that's the best way I found for me to be able to pass that on to my kid. Because I didn't want her to feel the same devastation with mistakes that I feel. I make a mistake and I'm afraid everyone's going to hate me or something like that. So I wanted to do things differently. And now that she's 21, our home is this place of so much joy and laughter and connection. My daughter and I are best friends, and we spend time together, and we share wisdom with each other. When she has time off, she wants to spend it with me, with us, My wife and her are like girlfriends. They hang out and they talk and they chat for hours about stuff. And sometimes I'll just sit out when they're in the kitchen talking or something else. I'll just sit outside and listen to them going on like that. And so that one of the reasons that I teach the stuff that I do is because I want people to have that kind of close relationship with their kids when they're that age. Because you rarely ever hear of a 21-year-old that wants their parents' wisdom, that wants them to guide them and to be part of their life and to have an influence. And the reason that she wants that influence is because she knows that she doesn't have to follow it. That the influence and the wisdom is all about her taking it and making it her own and using it in the way that makes sense to her. So when I suggest something to her, she'll go, okay. And she'll go away and she'll think about it. And a couple of days later, she'll come back to me. She's like, Dad, I've been thinking about it, and this is what I think. And she'll tell me, and I'm like, that's great, kiddo. Let's do it that way. So much of it is about relationship. That's one of the things that I've discovered. The reason I wanted to talk about cooperation is because I find that cooperation is one of the most painful, or lack of cooperation, one of the most painful things I hear from parents. So I am on the admin team for, I mentioned before, a large parenting group called Gentle Parents Unite. That was started by my friend Sujai Johnson, who's an inspiration to me every day. And there's over 25,000 members in this group. That means there's a large sample size. And we get to see problems from parents day after day coming in. And after years and years of this, I've seen some trends. And cooperation is one of the things that people, my kid won't listen to me, my kid won't pick up their stuff. I'm not their servant, and I do it, and I work, but they don't, and the pain of it is in there, it's real, you know. And so I thought, like, this would be a really good topic to cover, and I haven't covered cooperation specifically at a workshop before. At the same time, one of the things I say often is that I only teach one workshop and I put different titles on it, because the principles are really the same. The principles, which we're going to go through, about how to communicate, how to create the relationship of trust and connection, and how to create this sort of part of it is like the overall goal, and part of it is the day-to-day living that we do with our kids. And how to do that in a way that really amplifies these things. Amplifies cooperation, decreases power struggles, increases connection and confidence. And you know, I even have one workshop, it's a 2-hour workshop only on how to apologize to your kids. And how to go deep into what an apology is, and how we can frame it in ourselves first, and then communicate it, and then follow up with it afterwards. And so there's a lot of really deep lessons, but at the same time, the basic philosophy is pretty much the same. So I thought it might be interesting to talk a little bit about why it's desirable to want communication, cooperation. Why does cooperation feel good? What needs are being met? Well, the word cooperate actually is like to do things together, right? To operate in the world, to do it right? It's like co-create. And I often talk about co-think and to co-problem solve and all these I love the word co because we're doing it together. There's probably like a Latin root or something like that, right, to the word co, I'm guessing. Maybe a Sanskrit root, I don't know. And there's also the emotional experiences of having the cooperation that really makes a difference and impacts our life. One of the things that helps when we're being cooperated with is a sense of having our contribution being valued. Because if we're working, we're caring, and we're putting our hearts into what we do, and we feel like the other people in our community, and I call the home a community, a community system. And if we have this community and we put a lot of work into it, and we don't feel like we're being valued, it can feel like it feels invalidating. It feels like in a way that we're invisible. And I always hear that. I hear that a lot from people. Like I feel like I'm just not cared about. I feel like the work that I do is not valued. And there's like a sense of wanting to be valued, and also a sense of mattering to one another. Like I want to feel like I matter to the people in my environment, to the people that I care about, the people in my family, and even my kids. Like when I feel like I don't matter to them, it hurts. It makes me feel less connected. It makes me feel less like there's less belonging. And belonging is another thing. Belonging is such a deep need for us. And when we are in a situation where there's cooperation, we can feel a much deeper sense of belonging in our environment, and it also feels disrespectful when we're not being communicated with. I keep saying communicated. It's funny that I keep saying communication when I mean cooperation, because the two are so linked together. They're so deeply linked together. And the feeling of respect and companionship and just like the quality of relationship, like you were mentioning, the quality of relationship is so important, is so profound. And I call the home a system, a family, an ecosystem. I love the word ecosystem because I think of like I'm from Toronto, so in Ontario we had these nature commercials by the Nature Board of Ontario, and it would be like they'd have this nature music, and they'd show a marsh, or they'd show the grasslands, and they would talk about how it's an ecosystem.
Canada's grasslands are spectacular ecosystems.
And one of my sayings is every part of the system affects every other part of the system. And when we recognize that we're not only individuals, but we're integrated into the system, and everything that we do, everything we say, and everything that we think affects every other part of the system. It affects all the people, the emotions, and their emotional nature, and their physical, and their mental nature, but also the home environment as well is all affected by everything that we do. We're integrated into that system. And every relationship that we have is so important too. So as we create, when we feel like everyone's working together, then we feel like our relationships are more stable, more connected. And the reason it feels good to offer cooperation to someone else, I'm probably going to do that for the whole time, to offer cooperation to someone else. So I asked my daughter, what does it feel like when you're being cooperated with? When you want to cooperate. And she said, Dad, helping people when you're not told to help people feels nice. And I was like, that really sums up the whole. I could almost not teach the whole workshop. I just had that one sentence. That helping people when you're not being told to help people feels nice. And it creates a sense of harmony in the home. When I find myself cooperating, sometimes I'm going to talk about spontaneous cooperation and chosen cooperation in a minute. But when I find myself cooperating, there's a sense of harmony inside me. I want to experience harmony, but I also want to offer that sense of harmony. I feel empowered when I cooperate. And when I cooperate with other people and I receive appreciation for it, I'm not doing it for the appreciation, but when I receive appreciation for it, it feels really good. And I know that. I know that's why appreciation is one of the things that we'll talk about when we talk about modeling and stuff. Such a big smile. And, hi, sweetie. And again, the sense of belonging. The feeling of working together. When someone does laundry and the whole family gets together to fold the clothes, even if, the younger ones are folding the clothes, but it's still that whole experience of, yeah, exactly. That experience of people working together, it creates a beautiful connection. And so cooperation creates this kind of connection and belonging in a system. And that's really powerful. And I think that the problem is, though, that when we have all of these beautiful effects of cooperation, like feeling valued, feeling like you matter, feeling like you have belonging, harmony, and that connection, and then we don't have it, then suddenly there's a sense of I have to get it. And when you feel like you have to get it, but it's lacking, then that's when the force comes in. That's when the yelling can happen. That's when the punishments and consequences can happen. That's when the guilt tripping can happen. And all those things can happen because we're trying to get these good feelings that we know cooperation creates. Which is actually reasonable. It's reasonable for us to want these good things for us and our family. That's reasonable and beautiful. It's just the methods that we have from our past, the methods that we have, not only from the parenting paradigm that we've inherited is so painful, And it's not just the parenting paradigm, it's really the way that the world has kind of existed for thousands of years. Our hierarchical power structures and coercion and using systemic power in really harmful and abusive ways. And so we don't have a lot of training on how to do things differently. So doing things talking about conscious parenting is looking at how to create something like cooperation, but how to do it without those coercive and damaging behavior patterns. You mentioned patterns. Yeah, we have all these patterns wired into us, and to change patterns is hard. Doing it is it's daily work.
But it's doable, right?
It's doable.
If we've already created that pattern, whatever patterns, we can change those.
Absolutely. The mind is quite malleable, and it has the ability to. We have the ability to deprogram and reprogram. We do. And I'm speaking from experience because, I was so full of anger and pain and trauma. My mother does workshops in prisons, and I go in and I assist her. And once every 6 weeks I go in as a guest speaker. And I talk about how in my own life, when I was young, in my late teens and 20s, the pain of my own youth caused me to become a very angry, aggressive young man. Always getting into fights, doing all sorts of self-destructive activities. And when I go into the prison, I talk to it's a men's prison that we go to, and when I talk to them, I tell them, I'm only not in here and not dead, just by luck, or grace, depending on your belief system. That one of the people I got into a fight with didn't pull a gun on me. And I'm really not like that anymore, No.
It's hard not to laugh. Like,
What's that?
It's hard not to laugh knowing how much of a peaceful person you are, ever imagining you being angry or doing all these things.
Yeah. And yet the anger still comes to me at times, you know? It's just that I have a different relationship with it now.
It doesn't consume you.
It doesn't consume me, yeah. And when it does, I know enough to step away. I won't say it never consumes me.
It's a hard thing to master.
Yes, definitely. And I mean, for my daughter's sake, I was trying before that, but not really. But for my daughter's sake, for 2 decades, every day, I call it the daily grind. Because there's no magic solution. It really is daily work. Just constantly working and giving myself love, at looking at the triggers and the patterns that I have, looking at the patterns that I want to have. That's a huge thing, right? How do I want to be with my daughter? How do I want to be with other people? How do I want to be in the relationship with myself? And so that's one of the things that I spent a lot of time, still spend a lot of time working on, is thinking about what I want for myself. Because I found even knowing what I didn't want didn't necessarily show me clearly what I did want. And those are some can be very different things. So, I want to talk about, by the way, anytime anyone has any questions or anything like that, feel free to just ask.
I have a question.
Yes,
so
sure.
how did you overcome your anger or learn to manage it healthy ways?
Sure, that's a good question. So, one of the things was, every time I was angry at my daughter, I made sure I paid really close attention to the effect it had on her. I didn't block myself from it. Because I wanted to feel the pain of the effect that it had on her. You know? I also wanted to forgive myself for it. I didn't want to feel bad about it. I didn't want to feel bad about myself. But I also wanted I wanted to see it and tune into her feelings. You know, like just, was it just yesterday that we were shopping-ish?
Yes.
It was yesterday. So we were in the Walmart yesterday, and there was this family, and the kid was 5-ish.
Yeah.
5-ish. And 4 or 5-ish. And the 2 parents were there, and the kid was, I couldn't get the exact thing, but the kid was supposed to get in the car seat, in the buggy, or was not supposed to, or had wanted to, and then didn't want to. And so the parents were yelling at the kid, "You're going to lose your privileges if you don't get in right now. And if you don't," and I think the dad actually said, "I'll smack you right here in front of everybody if you don't." So it was like that, right? It really goes into the extreme. And a lot of the time when like parents are having difficult times, I'll jump in and make some kind of offer some kind of assistance or some kind of buffer. But this time it just felt like I was going to get punched if I did that. You know, like it was a lot of anger. So I thought I'm just going to watch. But you could see the kids like a spirit. Everything was like shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. So when I would yell at my daughter, and I did in the early days, I would see that shrinking, and then I would let myself feel it. That's one thing that really helped me. It was kind of a painful way to do it, but the reason I mentioned these parents is I could see that they were blocking themselves from being able to see that in their kids. They were blocking themselves from being able to feel it deeply. And it was just like, just pick them up and toss them into the thing, and then their behavior will shift because you gave them the threat, and then the behavior is going to shift. Another thing is meditation really helps. Really, really helps. April, you mentioned micro-meditations, and I teach a micro-meditation because a lot of times people say, I don't have time to meditate. And so the micro-meditation is a 1-breath meditation. And I love it because it just means taking 1 conscious breath. And you can do that in so many different times during the day. For example, let's say your kid says, "Mom, can you draw a happy face for me?" I'll say, "Sure, let me draw a happy face for you, and I'll do this." And then I draw a happy face. And that's my meditation. And it just brings me back to, even now I feel calm, it brings me back to myself, It brings me back to now if I'm really lost in the anger, maybe I'm not able to do that. But the angers where I don't get completely lost, I can do that. And just doing that throughout the day, like if you're washing dishes, you can wash the dishes, and then you can suddenly stop and feel the water running over your hands. And you can take that moment. And on the toilet, I used to call it the 30-second toilet meditation. Because you get at least one mean, with small kids, you may never get a solo trip to the washroom. But if you do get at least one solo trip to the washroom or the shower or something, then you have a moment where you can take 1, 2, or 3 breaths. And if you can take one breath, you can meditate. Right? So the micro-meditation is a beautiful tool to use. And there's more. I should do a workshop just on that.
Okay.
That's a really lovely idea.
That's okay.
Yeah, but it's a really good question. I love the micro-meditation. I think probably more answers will come through this as well. So 2 aspects to communication: spontaneous, cooperation. 2 aspects to cooperation. One is spontaneous cooperation, and one is chosen cooperation. Spontaneous cooperation is this feeling where you don't even know what's happening, all of a sudden you're helping. You know, all of a sudden you're in action, you just burst into action. And that's sort of like, imagine you're cleaning up the toys and suddenly the kid comes and helps without having been told. And it's just like you don't even know what's happening. Or if I'm sitting on the couch and I'm really comfortable, and I know my wife is folding laundry in the bed, and I suddenly find myself folding laundry, I don't even know how I got there. That's spontaneous cooperation. I remember a couple of years ago, I was shopping with my kid, and we came out of the store, and it was a windy day, and just as I came out, this grandmother was like, and her wig flew off her head, it flew through the air. It was fun, and I didn't even think. I ran after that wig, right? And it was like a little animal scurrying on the ground, and every time I was about to get it, it would like fly away from me. Everybody was laughing. I was howling with laughter watching. I didn't even have a chance to think, right? I was chasing this wig. And eventually I had to dive for it and land on the ground and grab the wig. And I held it up in the air like this, triumphant. And I walked back to the grandmother. And I'm about to turn 50. I think the daughter was with her. The daughter was my age. The grandmother was like 70 or whatever. And they were so appreciative, and they were so like happy. And I gave it to her, and everybody felt so good. You know, it was a beautiful human connected moment. And then I got to the car with my kid, and I didn't say to her, you know, this is how we should behave. We should always try and help people. I didn't do that. What I did was I said, it felt so good to do. You see how happy they were? That made me feel so happy. I'm so glad that happened. That's all I said. We're going to talk about modeling a little bit later on. So that's spontaneous, right? Where you don't even know, it just happens. And there's chosen cooperation. Chosen cooperation is, again, I'm sitting on the couch, and my wife is folding laundry, and I don't want to go there. Because I'm comfortable, or maybe I'm writing something that I think is really brilliant, you know? And I'm really in, or I'm watching Netflix, I'm really in. And then I access a deeper need, a deeper desire, something that's under my own comfort of the moment, something that's under my own, needs that are present in the moment. That's a deeper need. And that need gets me off the couch, right? And so this sense of like the chosen cooperation, making a decision based on values, based on our feelings, deep inside. That's the second kind of cooperation. And those two, both of those exist inside of us. But they're not things that you can force. They're things that have to be inspired. And one of my sayings is inspire the desire. I love that. Inspire the desire is because caring for the experience of other people can't be forced. You know, we can force someone to act in a certain way, but we can't force someone to feel in a certain way. I mean, you can probably force someone to feel terrible, but feeling this sense of caring for someone else is something that can only be inspired. So the question is, how do we do that, right? How do we inspire the desire? It's the same as respect, it's the same as love. There's absolutely no need for the little one to be quiet. Not at all. Chosen cooperation comes from relationship and principles and values, right? And so for kids to make these choices based on principles, relationships, and values, we have to help them discover what their own principles are, what their own values are, and foster the kind of relationship with them where this comes out more often than it might otherwise. Doesn't mean it's going to happen all the time, but I mean, nobody cooperates all the time. We want it to happen we want them to find that sense inside of them where it happens naturally for them. And like I was saying, like respect and love and gratitude, these are also things that can't be forced. You know, you can force a kid to say please and thank you, but you can't force them to feel gratitude. And if we can help inspire the desire, inspire the feeling of gratitude, what does it feel like? What are the benefits of it? And what does it feel like to give and receive? Then the please and thank you comes naturally. It's like I was playing with this 2-year-old once a couple of years ago, and I had this like bright orange ball, and we were playing with the ball, and there's like this look of like such brightness with this little orange ball. I said, "Do you want the ball?" And she said, "Can I really?" "Sure." And I gave it to her, and then the face lit up, and it lit me up, and it had this moment of like sharing this gratitude, and she felt it, and I felt it, and it was so beautiful. And then her dad came over and said, "Did you say thank you to Vivek?" And both of us were deflated, right? And then and I was thinking, like, this man is living with the master of gratitude. Because like my heart was uplifted with her gratitude, and both of us lost that. And he could be learning so much about gratitude from her, actually. So cooperation is very similar, That sense of wanting to cooperate is inside of us. And we can inspire it in our. Yeah, it's not that satisfying to receive that kind of a thank you anyways.
Yeah.
And that's why the forced cooperation is similar. Forced thank you and a forced cooperation. Like the needs, like we're talking about feeling of being valued, feeling of mattering, feeling of belonging to the community. Forced cooperation, even if we're forcing the cooperation to get those things, they don't really meet those needs in the end anyway, right? So if we want those deep cooperation needs met, doing it from the inside out makes it much more effective. Yeah, and we were talking about that yesterday too, that we were walking in again in the Walmart. We had a lot of experiences in the Walmart yesterday. And there was a loaf of bread, someone had knocked a loaf of bread on the floor, and I went back and I picked it up. And he was like, "Oh, I didn't even see that there. That was nice of you to do it." I said, "You know what, that's my daughter's training." And I never would tell her to do that when she was growing up. But because like the way I helped her with values was I helped her discover her own values rather than trying to impose my values on her, which is a longer process and needs a lot more patience. But now she thinks about the people that are working there and the work that they would have to do to pick that up, and how if I just take a little extra effort to pick it up, that'll make such a difference to them. And she's told me that this is important to her. So even when she's not with me, I still honor her value around that, and I pick the thing up, even though I probably wouldn't have done that before that. So like our kids can inspire us all the more, even if we allow them to have their own authentic value. Because if I was telling her, it's really kind for us to pick up things off the floor, but in a way, like, it's different than saying I like to pick things up off the floor. But if she says, I don't, I would always say, I respect that. That's wonderful that you know that about yourself. I'd never say, you really should be more kind. And so that takes me to the next thing I wanted to talk about is I talk about 3 relationships that we have with our kids. A model, a guide, and a friend. And each of these has their different kinds of influence. So the friend is really kind of like the relationship of play and connection and learning and growth that we do together. And that friendship evolves and changes over time, of course, as they change. And you hear a lot of the time parents say, especially traditional parents, they'll say, "I'm not my child's friend, I'm their parent," or "I'm their parent first." And I often say that, it makes me feel like you don't have a very positive definition of friendship. I think of for me, wanting to be my child's friend, I would thought what is a really good friend? A really good friend really cares about your well-being. A really good friend will share their wisdom and their experience in life with you. But they'll also be able to sit with you in your pain and be with you in your pain. They'll also help you with their perspective, and they're going to, they're going to keep you safe if they feel like you're not safe, like you're going to run out into the street. Parents often say, "Oh, are you going to let your kid run out into the street if you just let them do whatever they want?" But I don't let the kids do whatever they want. I really don't want my kid to get squished, but I wouldn't want to get you squished by a car either. So it's not that the authority of a parent is stopping me from keeping them safe. No. So a friendship has this. If a kid feels that you really are their friend, then they don't have to put up a wall against you of protection. And the guide aspect is that I've lived. When she was born, I had lived 25 years. Not a lot, but enough that I had been hurt enough that I had learned a few things. And so I learned a few things, and I want to share that learning with her, so that she doesn't have to make all the same mistakes I made. She's going to make some of the same mistakes I made. She's going to make a whole heap of mistakes that are all her own. But the ones that I made, that she can make sense to her, I'd like to share with her, so that she doesn't have to make the same kind of mistakes. But I also recognize, in order for her to see me as her guide, and to trust that I had to see her as my guide as well, you know? And so when I'm with a young person, I recognize there are things I can teach them. I can teach them, hi, sweetie, your contribution is always welcome. Absolutely. Yeah. That they have, that I can teach, obviously I can teach my daughter to not get hit by a car and to eat with a fork. But the things that the little ones have to teach us are so profound. You know, I learned about play from my daughter. I learned about curiosity from her. I learned about like free emotional expression, you know, letting the big emotions out. But part of my upbringing meant that I in a lot of ways I lost the ability to cry when I was growing up. Actually, you know, just at the last prison workshop that I did with my mom, she told me during the workshop, I didn't even know this happened, that because I was talking to the guys about how if they allow themselves to cry, it's actually empowering for them. Because a lot of men that end up in that situation cannot cry. And it's seen as this terrible weakness that they're going to be taken advantage of. And when I tell them that I cry every day, but I've had to work for a couple of decades to release that from me again, because it was so deeply blocked. And so one of the ways I did that was by seeing this incredible emotional, completely unrestricted emotional expression that kids have. I was like, oh, I would like some of that for myself, you know. Both the joy and the pain, letting it out, and it doesn't stick as deeply inside also. You know, I learned about creativity and problem solving for them. I learned about learning from them. Because kids are constant from the day they're born. They're learning such deep things. They're learning how to operate these bodies. They're learning how to speak and language. They're learning relationships and all of the different norms that they have to kind of like figure out in society and language. Like there's so much to learn all the time.
Regulate their emotion.
Yeah, exactly. How to regulate their emotions.
You're good at making friends.
What's that?
My kids are better at making friends than I am.
Making friends too. Exactly.
No, I should take notes here.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so beautiful, the number of things that we can learn from them. And having that awareness all the time, and expressing it all the time, helps my daughter to really feel like that I saw the value in what she had to offer, you know? And now she won't hesitate to offer me her wisdom. Like the other day, I was somebody had said something to me critical. And again, because of my own stuff, I took it really to heart. You know, it made me sad. And I was kind of coming down on myself for it. And I told her, and she said, you know, Dad, they're doing that because of their own childhood trauma. It really has nothing to do with you. Your feelings are valid, but it's not really that. It's not really about you. And I was like, oh, kiddo, thank you. That really helps. Because I wasn't seeing that at the time. I was taking it so personally. And then I thought, oh, she's been listening. She's really made
full circle.
Yeah, right? And she's made the wisdom her own. She's found out what does it mean to her. And that, I mean, for her to say that to me means she's thinking about it for herself. You know, I was so happy. And I go to her all the time. From the time she was able to communicate, even before that I would ask her and just kind of create that kind of relationship with her. But especially once she could talk, I would always ask her for her advice on things, for her suggestions on things. And if I could, I would always follow it. So this co-guided, co-learning relationship is the second part. And the last one is modeling. And modeling is really about how do I walk in the world? What example am I showing? You know, like you said, you say thank you, and it shows them that they can say thank you too. And so modeling, there's three main relationships that I talk about that we use as modeling. One is my relationship with myself. How do I treat myself? Which is part of the anger thing, right? How do I treat myself when I make a mistake? How do I treat myself when someone is harsh to me? How do I treat myself when I do something well, even? You know, a lot of people don't want to acknowledge their own successes. How do I treat myself in all different situations? How do I treat myself with my partner? How do I treat myself with my friends? How do I treat myself with, like, my passions in life? All these things. And I know they're watching. They're always watching how we treat ourselves, how we talk to ourselves, how we think about ourselves. And they can feel, kids can feel how we feel about ourselves. You know, they're very sensitive to even the subtlest shade of feeling that we have. And they know it. So part of my work on myself was to have a good relationship with myself so I could model, you know, like one of the reasons that I'm not so angry anymore is because I worked so hard at loving myself. I keep a mirror beside my laptop so that every day I can pull this mirror out and I look in the mirror and I say, Vivek, I love you, man. You're doing a good job. You're trying your best. You're making mistakes every day, but you're trying your best. And I stare right into my eyes and I try and really convince myself that I love myself. And doing that kind of thing, like every time I look in a mirror, that's what I try and do. Is even in the elevator. I always use the elevator to my mom's place, the ride up, to stare. I take that moment to myself, to stare into the mirror and look at myself and remind myself. And so that's part of the deprogramming and reprogramming, right? It's finding our way. It's because when we're born, when we're this young age, there's like the pure light of consciousness that we are is unobstructed by the layers that we adults have. And then slowly, no, you can't do this, no, you can't eat that, no, this is the wrong way to behave, that's the wrong way, wrong. These layers, we can't even see our own light anymore. You know, we can't even see our own love anymore for ourselves. And so finding our way through that, back to that original sense of ourselves, relationship with ourselves, is so profound, so important. The second relationship as a model is how you treat your kid, right? So my relationship with them, how I treat them, I model